Rich, I really appreciate your time and everything you do for my family in this community.
Thank you.
Would you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, my name is Richard Holmes. I'm originally from Kokomo, Indiana, born and raised. And my wife and I moved here to Pikeville, Kentucky in 2007 and planted what was then known as Trinity Harvest Church. And for the last 6 months, we've been Connection Church. And so the church is 13 years old, and it's been an interesting journey in moving to a new community where we didn't know anybody. When we came here to start the church, we didn't know a single person in Pikeville. So it was very much building from the ground up, starting with an idea, with a vision, and then building from there. And so it was a lot of challenges in the leadership aspect, challenges in the personal aspect of not having any family here, not having any friends or relationships here. But over the last 13 years, this has absolutely become home and has become our family. And so there's a lot of things we've learned about what works, probably more that we've learned about what doesn't work.
Well, I know that you are one of the great gifts to bring hope, but also to bring the Bible in a very relatable way to people.
Mm-hmm.
And you've inspired people by your kind of vision and dreams for the church and for the community. But when you think about leadership, for you, what do you think a real leader, kind of a change agent in a community, what do they need? Who do they need to become?
I think if you don't have a genuine care for people, to want to help people become more than what they would naturally do or be on their own, and be driven in a healthy way by a sense of mission, you won't last. If you view leadership as what I can get out of it, as name or the popular phrase today is brand building, trying to build your personal brand or to try and get wealth or popularity, you won't last. Now certainly there are people that have had those things come as a result of their leadership, but that can't be your North Star. There must be a sense of what I can do. And I would say even beyond that, for me as a person of faith, a sense of calling of this is why I was put on the earth, is to make a difference in the lives of other people. How you go about making that difference is very unique. There's so many different ways that you can do that. But that has to be the sense. Rather than pleasing people, rather than profitability, I'm here to make a difference. Because if you don't have that as what's leading you and what's guiding you in your personal life, set organizational matters aside, in your personal discipline, your personal life, you will give up when it gets difficult, because it's going to be difficult more than it's going to be easy. No matter the stages of where your organization or your business or your nonprofit is at. It's difficult when it's a startup, it's difficult when it's enterprising, it's difficult when it's scaling. It's always difficult. And if you're doing what you're doing just because of profit, you won't do it when there's not a profit. If you're doing what you're doing just because you want to be celebrated by people, you'll quit when you're being reviled on social media and when people stop showing up. You have to know your sense of why. Why am I going to do this? Because the why is what will keep you moving forward when you don't know your what and your who is no longer with you.
And under your leadership, when the church was growing, early growing in the days, some people were saying, this Trinity Harvest Church, and as a leader, like you said, you take good and bad. You can take a lot of arrows. And as you were developing the church and your own leadership patterns, how were you able to kind of endure all of that? And beyond kind of your focus of mission, how else were you able to endure that without it beating you down? Because you didn't have all these natural like family connections and stuff in the area.
Right.
How did you endure that?
Well, there certainly is a lot. You know, the loudest voices tend to come from the people who know you the least, and the people who have never been a part of what you're doing. You know, that they feel like they're the most knowledgeable and their opinions matter the most. And so, for one, it's, you know, just the old saying of consider the source. You know, I'm not going to change my course based on the thoughts of people that aren't involved in what's going on, people that aren't invested, people that are not genuinely informed, but outside people that don't know our heart, don't know our motivation, and don't know what's going on. The other thing is that when you see the difference of what you're doing is making in the lives of real people, that is the fuel to keep on going. That it starts with personal motivation. If the leader cannot cultivate a personal motivation and you're dependent only upon external stimuli, you will inevitably quit. So it's got to start with you. Your passion, your motivation, your sense of conviction, your belief that this is the right thing. This is meeting a need that is unmet. It's got to start with you. But beyond that, once you see that it is making a difference, a real difference in the lives of real people, that also feeds your motivation. That yes, there may be people that are outspoken critics. Everybody's going to have that. Jesus had that. God the Father lost a third of the angels. Everybody's going to have outspoken critics. In fact, I would say if you don't have any outspoken critics, you're probably not doing anything significant. But you have to find and sometimes mine out the stories of, is what we're doing making a difference? And if it is, what specifically is the thing that's making a difference? If you don't know what's working, you can't fix it when it's broken. So to know, here's the thing, here's the delivery system, here's the product, here's the service, here's the good that is adding the most value to the lives of people. Lean into that. Invest in that. Do that more. Find ways to do that better. Find ways to take that to more people. Let that fuel you. And I would say even take the stories of that and communicate that. Communicate that to other people. Communicate that to the community. That here's what we're doing and here's the difference that it's making. And we believe it can make a difference for more people just like you as well.
Well, as a minister, you've been a minister for a very long time.
Yeah.
You were young when you got started.
Yeah.
You've leaned on the Spirit speaking to you, but in the Bible.
Yeah.
Is there a biblical character that really you get a lot of leadership principles from?
Sure. For me, it's Nehemiah. I think when you look at Nehemiah, you have, of course, other than Jesus, you have a terrific example of leadership. Nehemiah is a unique person because he's living a cush life. You know, he's in a palace amongst royalty and all the trappings of royalty. He's living this great life. And he's a Jewish guy in a non-Jewish place, but continues to hear about his homeland that he had never been to. Not from there. He's asking about what's going on, and the story of the time is that Jerusalem is in disrepair. It's destroyed. The people are vulnerable. The city is broken apart, and Nehemiah asks about it, His curiosity brings him information. And curiosity leads to research. And out of that, Nehemiah gets a burden. And that really is the beginning of leadership that's going to make a difference in the lives of people, is a burden. A burden that doesn't go away after you have a good night's sleep. A burden that doesn't go away after you watch a funny movie. I'm not talking about a burden that you get just because you watch a commercial with, Save the Pets or something and that sad song. A burden that endures. A burden that is lasting. Nehemiah gets a burden about a people he's never met and a city he's never been to. But something about what he hears captures his heart in a way that nothing else has captured it before. And from that, Nehemiah goes into prayer. Nehemiah prays for months. And I think that's an important lesson, that a burden doesn't necessarily have to produce immediate action. That sometimes if we just go jump in without any prayerful, any research, any strategy, any thought that is born out of dedicated, focused meditation, we can end up doing more harm than good. It starts with the burden, but that burden needs to marinate. That burden needs to produce more curiosity. That burden needs to produce some more internal resolve and strength before we go and do something. And so for Nehemiah, I see this incredible pattern of leadership of a burden and then prayer and then make a big ask. He goes to the king. He takes a risk and is sad in the presence of a king, and he lets the real condition of his heart be seen by powerful people. And from that, he asks the king these incredible things. Let me take a leave of absence from my job here. Sign documents that will provide for me to have safe travel. And, oh, by the way, I want you to foot the bill on this whole thing. And I think that's one of the things that distinguishes leaders from followers, is leaders aren't afraid to make big asks. That you will ask for things. You'll take the risk because your burden is compelling you to get outside of yourself, to be awkward, to sit with people that are people of influence and people of means, and say, I'm going to ask you for something really big, not for me, but for the cause, for the mission. The mission demands me to make a big ask of getting resources and getting wisdom and getting experience and getting knowledge that I don't have, but other people have, and bring that to bear so that the mission can move forward. And then one of the next important things I think that you see from Nehemiah is that he builds a team. As soon as he gets there on site, he comes through the first gate of Jerusalem and surveys the scene, and he starts to build a team. He understands that what I'm about to do with this next season of my life is more than what I can do. This surpasses my talents, my skill set. It surpasses my physical ability, my financial ability. I've got to have an incredible team of people to be able to build what needs to be built. And he goes about recruiting and training and empowering an incredible team of people to do that. He coaches them. He provides for their safety, their protection, their morale. And when you see this pattern of Nehemiah, not only did he do something that other generations hadn't been able to do for years and years and years, but he does it in record time, because it all starts and is executed the right way. So Nehemiah for me is someone that I can glean from in a lot of different ways with leadership.
One of the things I really admired about your leadership is the ability to delegate, empower, but also to be able to let people kind of run with what they feel called to do and what they. So how do you as a leader set boundaries for yourself and the danger of over-functioning, over-performing.
Yeah.
How have you been able to do that?
Yeah, I think for me, it's I want to lead for the long haul. I look at leadership, specifically nonprofit and ministry leadership, as a marathon and not a sprint. And I don't want to run as hard as I can for a short distance. I want to have a good, healthy, sustainable pace for as long as God entrusts me to lead in this area and in this context. So understanding that part of what that sustainable pace means is that I can't be all things to all people. I can't be in every meeting, answer every decision, answer every question, make every decision, and be an expert in all things. I have found that a great leadership principle is that questions need to come down and answers need to come up. An old way of leadership is that the leader is the fount of all wisdom and the faucet of all knowledge. And so the leader would sit around with his team and just field questions like, the president or a governor in front of a press conference, and just spout off things that sometimes it wasn't even right or true. It was just, to seem like the smart guy. And it's not helpful, and it's certainly not authentic and genuine. And you don't have a culture of thinking when you do that. But I think the best way is to have where the leader is the chief question asker, and the team provides the answers based on their set of knowledge, based on them working in the context of other people in their field. And if they don't have the answer, they'll go find the answer and come back. And there's a couple things that happen from that. The leader remains curious. The leader sets a pattern of humility that we don't all have to have all the answers all the time. And the other thing is that you're mining out the wisdom, the intelligence, and the strengths of your team. If you can't do that, you have the wrong team. If you can't really ask and receive feedback and ask questions and receive the recommendations of your team, you have the wrong team, and you just have placeholders. You need to reevaluate either your selection and your discernment of who you're putting on your table. You need to reevaluate your processes and why do you have them in there. No one wants to feel like they're at a table just because you're doing them a favor. People want to make meaningful contributions to something that matters. And you slowing down enough to mine out what's in your people not only makes you and them better, it makes what you're leading better. And so I recognize also, I think that everybody else is gifted in areas that I'm not. There's so many different things you can do to identify your gifts. There's Strengths Finder 2.0, there's the Enneagram, there's a bunch of personality profiles and different things to get more of an understanding of how you are created and who you are as a person and as a leader. So one of the things that should come out of that is identifying how you're gifted and how you're not, where your strengths are and where they're not. So I know that there are people that are around me that are gifted in areas that I'm not. They're strong in areas that I'm not. And letting them lead from their strengths and I'll lead from my strengths makes everything stronger, makes everything better. Practically what that looks like is I want to be involved in the beginning. I want to be involved in the conversation on the front end to make sure that what they will ultimately be doing matches our culture, matches our mission, and that I have enough information on the front end to release it and then be involved on the back end before it's executed to make sure that everything is still a match. In the middle, in the logistics and in the shaping of it, I don't need to be involved in that. I don't need to be involved in the minutia and the detail and the, all of the how the sausage is made. I just need to make sure that what we're talking about and what we're about to do is healthy and is a mission and a cultural match.
Last question here. in the sea of many churches declining, some having to close, your connection is bringing hope, being very innovative, growing. That didn't happen overnight,
Right.
right? And there's a lot of things that you've learned about yourself and about leadership over time. If you were now your 20-year-old self, if you were to go back to your
Yeah.
20-year-old self, what is one or two things that you would say, man, I wish I would have known?
Yeah. I would say a couple things would be, nothing is going to be as fast as you think it will be. Nothing is going to be as easy as you think it would be. In leadership, have your vision, have your grand ideas, have your grand plans. The world needs those. The world's been shaped by making powerful statements that you're not yet prepared to be able to execute on. Have those things, but have it with an open hand, because there are adversities that you haven't anticipated. In all of your strategic plans, in your business plans, in everything, in your vision statements, in your values, there's adversity that you haven't seen, that you haven't anticipated and planned for. So I would say things are going to be more challenging. Things are going to take longer and cost more than what you anticipate. And I don't mean just cost more in terms of financially, I mean the personal cost, the relational cost, the physical cost, sleepless nights, expending your energy. There's going to be a higher cost than what you anticipate. The other side of that coin is that it's going to be more rewarding than you can anticipate. Whatever payoff that you think you'll have, in terms of the feel good or seeing the difference made, or all of that, however you think that's going to feel, it's way beyond that. When you see that vision is becoming reality, you can't get an idea of what that's going to feel like from reading it in someone else's book. There's a saying that says it can't be explained, only experienced. And it's in those moments where, man, this is what I dreamed. This is why I quit the job I quit. This is why I left where I left. This is why I went through all of those difficult startup days. This is why we did that, is for this moment to see these people's lives change, to hear these stories, to see this real difference. It makes all of the other stuff so much worth it, so much that you sign up for another round of adversity, because now you've had the payoff, you've had the win, you've tasted the victory, and the victory is sweeter than the bitterness of the struggle.
If a student's watching this today and they say, I mean, I want to connect, I want to dive in, I want to know more, on Sundays, what time could they swing by the church to participate in worship?
Yeah, Sundays is 3 worship service opportunities, 9 o'clock, 10:30, and noon. We typically have small groups that are going on all week long, some here at the church, some across the community. It's ways for people to connect outside of Sunday service, go deeper in relationship, go deeper in study. Connect with me on Facebook, on Instagram, email. I'd love to continue conversations about leadership and help people on their journey and exploring how they've been created and wired to serve other people and make a difference.
Well, on behalf of Pikeville and the Kingdom, thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you very much.